find a way to integrate these two. And a lot of people were like, forget BTR. We went to Google Hangouts. I mean, a lot of people have went that way. All right, we are live on air. Let me try to invite you again.
Hey, so my plan is, like, I'm on speakerphone right now. Does it all sound good?
Yeah, you sound fine.
2 minutes until showtime.
So, what did you do last time in terms
don't worry about the truck. It can be fixed, right? It's all material. Don't you be risking yourself to go out there. We don't want you doing it, my brother.
Yeah, it's crazy
You know?
thought.
Yeah, just let it go. Just a truck. But anyways, yeah. So I'm coming to you live from the northern studio. Last week I was on the road in the great city of Wilmington, Delaware, and tonight I'm coming to you from a suburb just north of Buffalo, New York, where it has been a balmy 55 degrees today. Let me tell you. So, and our current weather right now here in Buffalo is, oh, I'm sorry, we had a high of 61 today. And right now we are looking at about, actually right now we're 55 degrees. So probably a little bit cooler than where you're at, my friend. I'm assuming.
Well, we were in the 80s today. I enjoyed riding my motorcycle to work. And it's almost, embarrassing to say, if my brother was listening, he'd get mad at me, but, it's almost getting too hot to ride.
They don't have that problem in Canada too much, huh?
No, they don't. And I like reminding them, like sending them pictures on like Christmas Day of like me riding my motorcycle. Like, hey, how's that treating you?
I hear you. And speaking of Canada, your brethren from up north, our great northern brethren, our friendly beavers north of the border are on the west side. Man, they've really been suffering with that wildfire out there, huh? Prayers going out to tens of thousands of families that have just been, people that have just been lost everything. Just it's terrible.
Yeah, no, Fort McMurray in Alberta, just right, just right of the Rockies there, and up north, a big support to the oil fields and to the prairie complex there outside Edmonton and Calgary. It's just devastating, but it's really, on a positive note, it's great to see, people coming together. I mean, when you think about having to evacuate 80,000 people, like that's a pretty substantial evacuation. That's a big moving piece, and logistically, they really kind of muddled their way through it well. I know when you use the term muddle, you think that you're kind of screwing it up, but or you're making a great drink called an old fashioned. But they really kind of pulled it together. It sounds like they're doing really well. It looks like my man Trudeau, the prime minister up there, he's declined some international assistance from Mexico. He's declined some international assistance from some other countries because he feels he has, the situation with the Canadian resources and assets at hand.
He a little proud or what?
People,
I mean,
some people disagree.
Yeah, it seems.
Some people disagree, but
it seems pretty foolish. Like you would not turn down free help, and especially in countries like Mexico, they don't always offer, assistance like that. You should not look a gift horse in the mouth.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a reason for it. I know, there were some issues when we went through the wildfires here in Texas that, people were concerned, like, why wouldn't you take help from this? But when you look at the big picture and in the long run, that kind of help actually would not have been supportive or helpful at all. So, sometimes the juice ain't worth the squeeze, I like to say. So, but definitely prayers, going out to them, and just really hope that everything turns out the best that it can. Being through a large wildfire complex, a couple of years ago, there's a lot more to it than just you've gone out of your house one day, and if you lose your house, you can move on quickly, because you have nothing holding you back. But if you didn't lose your house, now you got all these other issues with the the evacuation. You can't go back in there for a certain amount of time. You have to check all these blocks, and there's a lot of limbo and frustration.
Yeah, I can
definitely praying for all folks up there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I want to talk. We got a great show tonight. We got an amazing American by the name of Bill Coates coming on. He's a retired United States Marine Corps colonel. Uh, just an amazing dude. I've had the pleasure of hanging out with this gentleman on several occasions. And, he's just he's a joy to be around. And two, I have a slight, envy of his physical fitness. The dude's a stud, like gets up and works out and runs every day and, makes fat, bald guys like me feel bad about ourselves. But pretty impressive guy. One of the things I really like about him, he was what they call a Mustang, where he actually enlisted right out of high school.
Right.
And, then, gained his degree and, went back and, did the whole commissioning and became a lieutenant and worked his way all the way up to Fulberg. He's done some amazing things. His responsibility in the initial push in Iraq was tremendous. But he's also, he was involved in East Timor. He was involved in, several other things. And then, no big deal. Like, he established the National Intelligence Center for Iraq. No big deal.
Yeah. That goes on as an additional duty on the OER or whatever. Just
yeah. And then, doing stuff like, being a commandant of like the, Marine Corps intelligence schools. Obviously this dude's kind of smart. He's written a really cool book, called You, the Last Best Hope to Restore Our Nation, which I kind of enjoyed. And, but I look forward to having him on the show here in a little bit. And, it's pretty exciting, to have him on and, his willingness to come on. And I hope we get the opportunity just to pick his brain on a lot of different things that are going on because, among other things, he's got a little politic in him. So it'll be great to talk to him about some of that stuff.
Oh, good
so
stuff.
Before we bring him on, anything striking out at you right now about, what's going on in the military world?
There's a lot of things to talk about, and I think we're going to need more than a few minutes for our bald man rants at the end. But several things I want to talk about. But I want to save them. The biggest one is probably, I'll just kind of tease you, is the this issue with North Carolina. I put some stuff up on the Facebook page about that. I got some feelings about that. I want to chat about that. Some decisions happening today at the mighty awesome school in Charleston, South Carolina, known as the Citadel. And we'll talk about that. And then, of course, we're watching West Virginia here, elections, as we have almost every Tuesday night. There's some kind of primary or something going on. And 1% in, and they've called it for Trump. I guess they probably could have counted on that one. They really didn't need to make that a news alert.
100%.
Yeah, they didn't need to make that a news alert. He's the only one. So we'll see where that goes. But yeah, a lot of stuff, man. More missing emails and Benghazis and servers and stuff. There's no shortage of things. But we'll hit some of that at the end, I think.
All right.
Oh, I do want to give actually, yeah. I got to make a note. I want to do a happy birthday shout out, but we'll do that at the end too. I just want to make note of that.
No. Oh, to the Shard.
Well, to the Shard, absolutely, who's not on yet. But hell, let's do it now. But also to our good friend, past guest, the Trash Can, Mr. Retired Major Mike Scotty, who is the author of a couple books. A new one coming out was featured in a great documentary. We want to so he was in Severe Clear. That's pretty much his documentary and film. And today is his birthday, so I want to wish him, and of course the Shard, who just had his birthday the other day. But yeah, so. All right. Here we go.
So here we got tonight's special guest, bringing this gentleman on live on the air. He's currently probably somewhere in the most beautiful place of Montana, and he's probably like sipping a nice cup of coffee while his feet are up on some porch, watching a herd of elk go by, sizing them up for the fall. Bill Post, what's going on, my man?
Hey, how you doing, Toby? Good to talk to you.
So I'd like to say I'd like to say it's been snowing here for 2 days.
What?
No kidding. No kidding. You dust off some snowshoes and go chase an animal?
Yeah, it's time for some fly fishing. The weather just won't cooperate.
Oh, that's now you're speaking our language.
Yeah, that's yeah. There's any time's a good time for that. That's for sure.
So how are you guys doing?
That was way over the top introduction. I just want you to know.
I actually get paid to hype people up. I guess that's like my gig sometimes. So like this is just me practicing.
Yeah.
All right. I mean I could do like weighing in from the blue corner, retired, like I could do so many now, but I won't. So it's like the show. So we're happy you're on. There's so many things we want to talk about. You're involved in so many different things. One of the very first things I want to, compliment you on is your ability to transition as a full careerist out of the military into the civilian world. You're doing it like a champ. It's a wonderful example to everybody, both your peer group as well as those of us in the subordinate ranks see all, because you're doing it and you're doing it well. You went and you worked up in the oil fields for a while, and you're really putting your time to good use. You're being productive, and it really is good to see people not like feeling sorry for themselves and like hiding up in the cabin and like writing a manifesto.
With a hoodie on. With a hoodie on and some sunglasses.
I tell you, I'd like to do that. No, like if you do, it's totally cool. Just make it a good one.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. So I guess I look at it completely different. I'm very happy to be retired. I'm very happy to be out of the military and doing something else. So, people ask me, they said, "Do you miss it?" And I said, "Not yet." So, it's been about 4 years, but it was a great life, but I was definitely ready to move on. What would you guys like to talk about?
Well, there's actually a lot of things we want to talk about. First and foremost, your involvement in Mighty Oaks. You're a wonderful addition to the team there. I see, you're up on their speakers bureau now. You're doing good things. How's that experience been for you?
Well, I got to tell you how it started. My wife had Chad and Jeremy and Eric out there, and they were talking to me about it. And I told them, I said, "Hey, I'm not really big on these veteran programs." And they just kind of looked at me and laughed. And I said, because most of them I felt were less than effective, and so kind of hung out with them for the weekend and listened to them. I thought, wow, this is pretty good. And they asked me today, we'd like you to come out and go to a fight club. And I went out there, and quite honestly, it's the most powerful thing that I've been through in my life. And I don't say that one off lightly. I say that the impact that I saw on men's life and the impact on my life personally. I was kind of one of those guys that when Jeremy said, "Hey, we'd like you to come out," and I said, "Yeah, I'll come, but I don't need it." And he just kind of laughed at me. So I just I couldn't say enough about it. Right? I could just imagine if the American people had an opportunity to experience a fight club. I think it could revolutionize our country, quite honestly. It's really about men understanding the biblical blueprint of manhood, and I think we could change our nation around faster than this, and any election cycle could could possibly be, because it gets at the root of the problem. And the root of the problem is that as a nation, we're morally bankrupt, and most people don't have a platform to launch from, so they're running around looking for some superhero to come in on a white horse and fix the nation. And my core belief is that we were, well, it's not even my core belief, it's really what the founder said, that the people were the sovereign of the nation, not the government. And until we wake up the sovereign, the government will never change anything. So I think Mighty Oaks quite clearly is a very powerful tool to change men's lives, but not just with the veterans community. I think it would be just as effective in the civilian community, especially if you took the same core instructors that you've got out there and had them stand in front of them, and then I listened to you guys totally the first time I went out there, and I went, wow, these are real guys. It's a peer-to-peer involvement. It's revolutionary in my mind. So,
I'm super proud, to be part of that. One of the reasons for that is I completely agree with you. I absolutely believe America is suffering from a man crisis. And it's like you can pick any headline randomly, and I could point to it and say, well, the reason why this is a problem is because there isn't a man behind that doing the right thing. There isn't a man willing to stand up for what he's. There's a man that lacks standards or has flexible standards. That he lacks character. I could pick any of these things that are going on in our country right now and be like, this could simply be fixed if we, as men, did what we knew in our hearts to be right, and led our families and just stood up and said, hey, you're a jackass. Stop doing that, and let's move forward. And and one of the things is I can just look at that.
I look at even in that book I wrote, and I'll just read you a quote from Samuel Adams. He says, "No people will tamely surrender their liberties, nor can any be easily subdued when knowledge is diffused and virtue is preserved. On the contrary, when people are universally ignorant and debauched in their manners, they will sink under their own weight without the aid of foreign invaders." And that's what Samuel Adams said. I think the key thing is we have forgotten our roots. We've forgotten. Pretty much everything that made this nation great, and it certainly wasn't money, and it certainly wasn't the government. Have you ever heard of the book, The 5,000-Year Leap?
I've heard of it. I have not read it, to be honest with you.
Well, the thesis of the book, it's pretty interesting book, but the thesis of the book is the Pilgrims came here in the same transportation with the same tools that civilization had 5,000 years. And less than 200 years after signing the Constitution, they were landing on the Nunn. That's not because we have the smartest people in the United States, but it's the first time that men could live free, to innovate, create, and this nation was founded under the principles of God. Our Constitution, was written for a moral and religious people and wholly unsuited for any others. So
so speaking of books, let's talk about your book real fast. It's called, the one that I have, it's called You, The Last Best Hope to Restore Our Nation. What was the inspiration to get that going?
Well, and I guess that's kind of the whole thing, with Mighty Oaks and everything else I'm talking about, is I don't see the solution for our country being in the government. I don't see it. I see it being individual responsibility. And so I said, well, I mean, I have people all the time asking how are we going to change our nation? How are we going to save it? And I got involved in politics and quickly realized that politics wasn't going to be the solution. So I just sat down and wrote a book.
Well, I mean, that's a good use of your time.
Well, it's a good use of my lifetime. Yeah, Dad. So remember I
you married a rear. You married a rear admiral, right? So
that's right. That's right.
you gotta make use of those skills. Politically, you're a student of the Constitution. You're an American history, student, for lack of a better term. What do you like? What do you think of the process that we're going through right now? Like, as we sit here on the air talking, there's another primary, taking place in
Justin
West
Bieber got a
Virginia.
face tat.
This has been a crazy primary season with, just an insane amount of candidates, and then it, being whittled down to, a mistful, and now it looks like we're left with one, although Cruz said today that he might unsuspend his campaign and come back. What do you think of this current process, on both sides of the fence? Because it's been such an interesting year.
I think it's bizarre. I think it's totally bizarre. We have 330 million people in our country, and this is kind of what we're left with. I think if we went back and we look at, if you look in the Bible in the Old Testament, when Moses was leading the children out of slavery, and his father-in-law said, "Hey man, you can't deal with all these stiff-necked people by yourself. It's going to wear you out." And I think, in Exodus 18:21, he said, "Find capable, honest men who fear God and hate tribes, and put them in charge of the, thousands, 500s, hundreds, and tens." What a novel idea! If we were putting forth people that were capable, honest, fear God, and hate tribes, make our country be different today. And so that's my standard for who I would support. I mean, what do you think, Doc? Well, as far as both sides, I mean, what are your feelings about what we're left with? I mean, because I'm the kind of guy that, here's what I think. One of the chapters of my book, I talk about the spirit of the party. George Washington, in his farewell address to Congress, and I'm going to paraphrase here a little bit. He talked about the spirit of the party, which would be, defined as in today's vernacular as the Democrats against the Republicans. He said a wise people will discourage and restrain the spirit of the party, lest the fire that was meant to warm the republic destroy it. And cunning, ambitious, unprincipled men subvert the power of the people and usurp for themselves the reins of government, and then destroy the very mechanisms that lifted them to their unjust dominion. And I'm like, wow, this guy, over 200 years ago predicted what we would see today.
So he was a pretty smart guy, right? And
Nothing. I don't think
there's a reason why. What's that?
I don't think I'm a smart guy. Hey, listen, when I went to college,
I'll never accuse you of being smart. Yeah.
I don't hear very well.
No, and it's is crazy, because like our forefathers, the reason why they were so protective and so deliberate in the Bill of Rights and within the Constitution, even as it was being developed over the next, like several decades after its initiation, was specifically for what we're dealing with right now. And,
Absolutely.
They're like, no, that really doesn't matter. That's not what they meant. And it's like, actually, that's exactly what they meant. They meant it about the First Amendment. They absolutely meant it about the First Amendment. They absolutely meant it about the Second Amendment. The Fourth and Fifth Amendment, absolutely. This is like exactly why the Bill of Rights exists. And,
you're 100% right. Here's the part that gets me is, people don't really, they don't really anymore understand what freedom is. And think about a nation that came together and they had the Constitution and they couldn't get it ratified for years until they put in the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. And 9 of the first 10 say the government shall not. And the 10th one said, oh, by the way, any powers we didn't give to the federal government are left to the states and the people. But they were smart enough to understand that eventually a government would corrupt. And so they put the Bill of Rights in there as the citizens' defense against the tyrannical government. And, we spend a lot of money and a lot of time on the Second Amendment. And what I think I've come to realize over the last year or two, the real subversion is in the First Amendment. The ability to take away your freedom of speech, the ability to take away your freedom to gather, to have redress against the government, freedom of the press, and freedom of religion. And I think the real assault is on that First Amendment. But if we lose the First Amendment, we'll lose all the others. Think about it when people can't speak for themselves anymore. When your speech is absolutely controlled. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, one of the things is like we've all kind of, you and myself with Iraq, Troy with Afghanistan, we've seen, a nation state, kind of being born out of some rubble, right? And, it's real interesting, like how, all these little pieces of infrastructure, we get to see being recreated in real time. And so, like, I really have been fascinated. You and I have like sat, late at night, kind of talking about, some of our, our more humorous, war stories. But I'd really like to talk to you a little bit about Iraq. And I know Troy's got some questions, so I'm actually going to let Troy go first, because I know he's been waiting a minute to ask you something.
Yeah. Hey, Bill, how you doing, man?
Good, Troy.
Good. Hey, welcome to the show. Glad you could come on, and it's just looking at your bio and what you've done. I mean, there's no doubt that you have you're very passionate about the Fight Club and everything that Mighty Oaks is doing. But let me ask you. I mean, you've got a long career. You've done some phenomenal things as the commandant of the Intel School, and doing some stuff.
That was a CEO. That was just the CEO, but you guys call it commandant. But you said you're Bronson. You could say that.
Yeah. We don't. You're the. Some people would say use the term HMFIC. I don't know, but you were the head guy in charge. So, or at least I guess if students screwed up and didn't make it in time, you were the one they were coming to your office to see how bad they really wanted to be there, right? But you've seen, from all your experiences, a lot of war fighters of all branches, I'm assuming, come into things, go through combat, all that kind of stuff, and you've seen you've seen a military that has had the transition from doing its job, which is finding, fixing, and killing the enemy, to nation state building. So I just like to get your reflections on that. Having been there on that first push in the 2003 up in Iraq, and I'm not sure what other tours you've had, but just all your experiences of what that's. I mean, I look at it and think, wow, we've got these 21-year-old, 22-year-old sergeants or lance corporals or whatever they are, what branch, out there just with a dozen, 15 guys, in their responsibility and millions of dollars worth of equipment, and just asking them to spin from, let's sing cadence about bodies burning bodies, to, hey, let's get this district center set up, and just kind of what your reflections are on that.
Well, actually, I wasn't on the ground in Fish. I was at CENTCOM. I was the Iraq team chief for the Joint Intelligence Center during the kickoff. And then after the ground war, then I went to Baghdad and stood up the National Intelligence Center. But here's my thoughts on it. My thoughts are that we train soldiers and Marines to fix and destroy the enemy. That's what we do. We take them into boot camp. We train them to assault, and then we put them in a place. This was my feelings in Iraq, and watching that whole evolution, and going back in the Sunni Triangle in 05, 06 as a battalion commander. And then watching what the news media was doing and portraying over there. The military isn't designed to be a nation building state. I think that involvement in foreign wars for national defense should be the only reason that we go. Number two, when you go there, you go destroy the enemy and you leave. We go to nations that don't understand our culture, don't want our culture, don't want to be what we are. And if we're about freeing them up, we free them up, and then we leave. The military wasn't designed to build nations, and the military is always left by default because no one else has a plan of what to do with it when it's over. Before we went in there, my whole thoughts were, number one, why are we going? And then what are we going to do once it's done? And so when we have 15 years of continual war today, and who benefits from that? Certainly not the military. And I think that we have to, as citizens, ask why. Why are we deploying to these other countries? Why are we fighting wars on foreign ground? And then conversely, why do we have open borders that no other country accepts as the norm? So the whole nation building thing is a burr under my saddle, if you want to put it that way. That's not what we're designed to do. And when you put the military in a position like that, when you're asking 18, 19-year-old service members to become policemen in unknown cultures, and then when disasters happen, we make a public spectacle of them, and the people that make the public spectacle of them have never been on one of those tight little roads,
right,
faced by buildings and fired upon, and expected to make the right decision every time. I mean, let's look at World War II. World War II, we fought 52 million people died around the world. 37 million of them were civilians. What happens when one young soldier or Marine pulls the wrong trigger? He's not only going before the court of public opinion, he's going to go before an actual court.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm glad you think that. I mean, it's very reassuring. I've on my main blog at boohammer.com, I've recently wrote a few posts about that. One just last night, almost saying verbatim of what you said. And, when you mentioned that, the young Marine or soldier doing something in a court opinion, I think of, back in, I don't remember what it was, probably about the time you were a battalion commander there. I think it was I was in Afghanistan 06, 07. So it was right before, probably about 04, 05 when there was a reporter with some Marines up in an upper building. It might have been Fallujah in 04. And there was a reporter videoed a Marine shooting a heavily wounded, not almost dead insurgent laying in that floor. And probably before the guy got back and got a hot chow, the world court via mainstream media was already prosecuting him that he shot an unarmed, unthreatening man, even though the camera view wasn't there, and you didn't see what the guy was moving or grabbing for. It was just I never forgot that. There was a lot of things that came out, but I remember that one. I remember that guy laying there and I'm reshooting him, and he didn't gloat, he didn't dance over his body, he didn't do anything. The guy was a threat, he shot him, but within minutes it was already being broadcasted everywhere. I have a big feeling, a big heartache about too many lawyers on the battlefield personally.
Yeah, I have a instant communication. We live in an instant, completely connected instant communication world, and you can bend the story about however you want, and facts don't really have aren't necessarily a piece of it, but the people that are always judging them are the people that have never put their life on the line, have never been down there. I mean, and I used to tell people, I said, I was really glad when they came out with satin plates. Because, when I was out there on the street, then I knew my heart was going to explode out of my chest. And I'm thinking, I'm in my 40s out here, and we got young kids on the street every day, America's heroes every day, being called to make extremely difficult decisions in a millisecond, and then being held accountable if they don't. I remember one time we were asking me, or one of my team leaders saying, hey, sir, one of my Marines asked, if you could shoot back when they're in the middle of a firefight. Because they had spent so much time on the rules of engagement. I mean, if that's not a thing, I don't know what is.
Yeah. As a battalion commander, with common sense, some do, some have it. I can imagine the stresses. I know you had a JAG assigned to you and all that kind of stuff. I can imagine the conflict some of that stuff put you in, knowing that some of your young Marines were second guessing themselves or their millisecond decisions, because you well know that could easily cost lives, even though they were doing it for whatever interest, but it can put a lot of people at risk.
Well, exactly. The question is, what lives? I shouldn't even say that. I was going to say, I was more concerned about my Marines. I'll be perfectly honest. I mean,
as you should be. That should be your number one focus. I mean, in the Army, we used to have a saying, mission first, men always. I mean, I'm not sure when they got rid of that or what, but I mean, that should be your number one concern. You didn't choose to go deploy your battalion over there or go to war. Your country called on you to do it, and your job is to go over there and accomplish that mission. But hopefully, bring all your men back if possible. Sometimes that's not possible. That's the nature of warfare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The nature of warfare has changed drastically too. My dad was a Marine in World War II, and his first battle was in Guadalcanal, and the last one in Okinawa. I never heard anything about it from him, but the nature of war in World War II was completely different, because they were executing total war to defend this way of life that America had come to know and cherish. And I think that when we forget the sacrifice and why they sacrificed, and then we just send people kind of for unknown, unspecified missions around the globe to fight wars. And as far as I'm concerned, I serve with the greatest generation. These young guys were on the street every day, and there was no relief from, and mostly it was fighting an unseen enemy. It was the IEDs, it was the mortar rocket attacks, it was somebody shooting at you, throwing down their weapon and running. And then life went on in the United States, and people judged every every tip that came to public knowledge, whether this military made the right decision or not whether their lives have been in danger, 24/7 for, the last 6 or 7 months.
Yep.
So, what's up next for you there, my man? Like, you got this book You out there. People are trying to convince you to run for office. Are you going to do it? Tell the audience like what they can expect from the wise sage of Montana for the next little bit.
Well, I think I'll lean into a bigger role in my deals if I can, to tell you the truth.
Awesome.
I'm trying to. I'm kind of at a point that God would have to call me into politics for me to do it, and until we as a nation decided we were going to do something else, we turned over our sovereignty to 2 private organizations, the Democrat and Republican Party. And, it's kind of an interesting thing. I was thinking about it. Our job really was hunting down insurgent organizations and taking them down. And it was never an issue of going out there and wanting to kill or capture all the insurgents. The whole idea is to take their power away, and then they just kind of went away. You know how it is. Well, we have these 2 powers called the Democrat and Republican Party in the United States that hold all the power. And my argument is that they're the same. They reach singularity at the top. And we've given them all the power. And the power that people have is when we turn away and decide that if we went out and actually recruited our own candidates, if we went out and found the capable, honest men who got cheap bribes, men and women, and we put them forth, and we went outside the party, the Democrat Republican Party structure, then we have an opportunity to actually change things in our government, because you've taken their power away. They only exist and they only have power because we as sheep will line up and vote Democrat or Republican because that's what it's done. And we let them absolutely control, we let them pick the candidates and control who we vote for in every general election. I mean, I would have to ask the question, why do we have primaries?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are asking that right now.
No, I mean, really,
the media are like making millions off it.
Right, but the only reason why we have earlier is to narrow restrictions down to 2 people. But constitutionally, any qualified electorate can run for office. But the party system has developed this. I'll say we have one party in the United States now to develop a system that keeps any outsiders out. It's funny listening to people talk about there might be a third party candidate run for president, and they say, well, if you're a Republican, they'll say, well, yeah, but if you vote for them, then Hillary will win. And it's the same old scare tactics that have no basis in reality. A third party candidate doesn't even have to give the vast majority of the votes to win. I mean, there's certain people that are going to line up and vote a Democrat or Republican, and that's all they're ever going to do. But can you imagine, the right person coming on the stage and running for office and running under the principles that they're going to restore the Constitution and restore the nation to the people?
Well, the left and the media and those that that think the Constitution is a living document will crucify them on air and make them look like, call them everything like Tea Partiers and this. And I mean, they'll, and the sheep of the country will be swayed and they'll believe what their favorite talking heads tell them. That's the sad thing.
Right. Yeah. Right. I'm just saying it's a well-organized campaign to, I would say probably most of the people that are elected to office have never read or understand the Constitution. Let alone the people. You have to talk to them in veins or avenues of how things affect them personally. I mean, the Declaration of Independence, said we form governments for one reason, to protect life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What they meant was life, liberty, profit. So if you can make issues personal to people, then you can energize it. But most of the people, I mean, they're energized because they have Donald Trump out there, pretending not to be a politician, and people are sick of it. I've never seen a time in my life that it wouldn't be a ripe opportunity for a third party candidate to run. Whether it would succeed as president, I don't know, but we've always been a nation of choices, but now we're not left with choices. We're no longer. I mean, it's like you can buy a Ford or a Chevy, and that's it. You can't have a BMW, or you can't have a Porsche, or you can't have a Hyundai or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And when you limit it, when you let the powers that be limit your choices, you're going to get whatever they feed you. Anyway, that is for sure. But I really think that the real issue is not the federal government. 535 people up there in the executive branch. If you want to fix the country, you have to go back to the Constitution. And the biggest fear the founders had was a strong central government. And if we started in the states and elected people that decided that there were three issues on any law that was going to be passed. Was it constitutional? Yes or no? Was it something that we need? Yes or no? Or was it something we could afford? Yes or no? If you didn't get a yes on all three, then it's kick it to the curb, move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. We've gone from a nation established on justice for all to a nation of fairness. And fairness only happens in fairy tales.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference between those two, and yeah.
I mean, with justice, you have the opportunity for mercy, but fairness has no opportunity for even mercy. And it's
right.
just a false sense of justice when you talk about fair, but that's what you hear all the time. We've raised an entitlement generation. Look at all the young kids that are going for Bernie Sanders. I mean, when I joined the Marines in 1975, we're thought, well, it's better off to be dead than red, and go kill a commie for mommy and that kind of thing. And now they're screaming for communism, and they have no understanding of what they're asking for. But they have this entitlement mentality, and they think that life revolves around what's fair for them. I mean, think about the fact that. Sorry.
No, I don't mean to cut you off. We're running low on time.
All right, sounds good.
But man, I could talk to you all night because as much as I hate to admit it, and I promise I'd never accuse you of being smart. You kind of are. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your night to break away from the snow and to come hang out with my man Stu and I. We're really excited for the work that you're doing with Mighty Oaks. And we want to let everyone in our audience know that if they want to learn more about Mighty Oaks, they can go to www.mightyoaksprograms.org, where they can learn more about the foundation and the different programs, the men's fight club, the women's fight club, the marriage advance, because real fighters don't retreat. And, to get out there and learn more about the program and how they can get involved, because raising awareness is great. But I think we already know that there's a problem. Let's start working on a solution. Like our guest was saying earlier, that's what we need to do. We need to stop telling everyone what the problem is and start dealing with it. Bill, thanks for coming on. You're American treasure. Even being a Marine, you're straight up my hero, and I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on the show.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it, man. Good talking to you.
All right. All right. You know, it's amazing, like the people, the caliber of people that get involved in programs like Mighty Oaks and some of these other programs that we've had on the show and that we're personally engaged in. It's just an absolute pleasure to be around such great Americans. Lots going on though. I mean, we were just talking with Bill about like trying to narrow down the two candidates. The Democrats, they're still trying to narrow it down. Looks like Bernie's, reminding everyone in coal country that Hillary was going to put the coal business, put coal industry out of business. So looks like he's pulling a win out there. That's pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, you figure Indiana now that I think I still say that's why Biden didn't jump in. He thought she had it sewed up. So we'll see. And that kind of gives me that's actually another topic I want to talk about. So, but yeah, what's that? All right, so here it is. I'm gonna go through that. I'm gonna hit that one first, and I'm gonna hit the others. So here's what I'm calling. I just had this talk the other day with a couple good friends, and this is how I'm calling it's going to turn out, my buddy. You heard it here first on Stu and the Nunn. Anyone that's listening, what I predict right now at this point is that of course Trump has the GOP. That especially because of his win against tonight in West Virginia. The Democratic convention in Philadelphia is going to be a fractured or contested convention, and here's what I see happening. Most people are not voting; they're voting for Bernie, or they're not voting at all. Or they're coming over to Trump because they don't. I know more Democrats that are anyone but Hillary than I know Republicans are. So a lot of them don't trust her, don't like her, are sick and tired of her. And are either, like I say, not voting for Bernie against their best wishes, or even voting for Trump. And what I think is going to happen is if Bernie can keep her from getting the minimum number of delegates, or she does get charged, which may even cause her to have to drop out or whatever. But Bernie doesn't have the delegates. That the Democratic base will do what everyone predicted was going to happen to the GOP, and they thought that they may bring in, because the delegates can elect in and nominate someone else. I see them bringing in Joe Biden as the nominee if the convention is not all sewed up by the time they go to Philadelphia. He is liked by the left. He's liked by the central. And I see them bringing in Biden as the only hope because the Democrats do not want Bernie in there. They don't like Bernie. They know he's not one of theirs. He doesn't support their programs. So you heard it here first. I'm calling, if there's a fractured or a broken convention, that they will bring Biden in, and he may very well be the nominee. So that's a
strong prediction.
It is strong. I don't know why. Just feel it in my gut. I see it happening, watching everything that's going on. So we'll see what happens. If I'm wrong, well, I'm wrong. Everyone will forget about it. If I'm right, I'll make sure I let everyone know that. So there we go. And maybe I'll find myself as with my own little chalkboard on Fox News, doing my little predictions and write-ups. But only if I can.
So like,
what's that?
It's like you brought up Hillary, and I guess they just released the information about they traced the weapons that were being dealt between Benghazi and Syria before the attacks. And it's like just another nail in the coffin. But yeah, it's like no one's mentioned the word indictment like outside of Fox News. It's like everyone's playing deaf and dumb, and no one's talking it up. One of the things that I was talking to a really good friend of mine yesterday, a filmmaker of Bad Beauty's War, Deborah Scranton, as a matter of fact, and we were talking about a plethora of different things and some upcoming projects. And she's going to be coming on the show here in a couple of weeks to talk about her new HBO special that's coming out. But just really, was reminded that when I was a kid, I learned a very valuable lesson. I did something horrible, and I prank called some people in our church, and I got caught by the Mounties.
And, you know, like the Mounties told my dad, and we're like, you know, your son's making these prank phone calls, and so he's doing it. You know, and it was bad enough that I was going to prank phone calls, but it, you know, the fact that there were, you know, other members of the congregation, you know, the friends that we, you know, of our church. And, you know, my dad said, you know, he's like, you know, you have no idea what you did. You compromised my position within, you know, the church because, you know, like, if I can't, you know, maintain order and control and respect within my own home, how could I be expected to be a leader anywhere else? And, you know, we were talking about that and how it's like, you know, if you can't control your own house, like, how are you going to control, like, a government?
Right.
And I really enjoyed what, you know, Bill was just saying about, you know, how we should go and recruit people versus, like, taking volunteers, like, taking the people that I think, well, I think I'd be really good for the job. I think I'd be great at it. I think I'd make America huge. Or, like, I'm the best choice, you know, because I'm the one that's going to bring, you know, equality to everything. And, you know, it's like, I really, you know, think that we should recruit people versus, like, take volunteers. And I really enjoyed how he put that.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Okay. Well, we're kind of out of time, but just go into our Facebook page, check out my little piece from last night about North Carolina and the federal government blackmailing our states. Read about that, comment if you have a comment. So I won't go into that. And a big congrats to the Citadel for standing by their uniform standards and not allowing in the applicant who wanted to wear her job and violate and change the Citadel uniform standards. They stuck with it. They didn't go political correct, and they're not bending for another social experiment. So that was my other thing. So with that, I think, Toby, we're ready to wrap it up and go outro. You good? I'll play it. All right. I don't know where Toby went. Maybe it's...
Thank you for tuning into Stu and the Nunn tonight. We're always grateful for our listeners, both live and those who check us out on the archive. Be sure to check out our website at www.stuandthenunn.com and like our page, Stu and the Nunn on Facebook, and follow Stu and the Nunn on Twitter. And of course, be sure to join us again next week and every week here on blogtalkradio.com/Stu and the Nunn every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. You all have a good night.